let the words of my mouth
Amen.
and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight.
Lord
As you are
Jesus.
my
Lord
strength
Jesus.
and my redeemer. It's John chapter 19.
All right.
And we
All
find
right.
the fifth verse, and it says, and it reads this, after this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now accomplished, that the scriptures might be fulfilled, says, I thirst. I want you to look at somebody and say, neighbor, he fulfilled me.
Yeah.
He fulfilled me. I want to paint this picture. Jesus is on the cross, and his body is going through changes. His body is going through something what we call hemohydrosis, which means that instead of sweating out of his sweat glands, he begins to bleed. He's up there on the cross, and he has a 6-inch nail in between the radius and the carpal bone, which then will comprise of his wrist. And he has another 6-inch nail between the intermetatarsal space of his foot. And this is cutting the parallel nerves. He's up there on the cross, and because of his outstretched arms, his rib cage is beginning to cave into his lungs, which is making it hard for him to breathe. His chest cavity is beginning to cave into his heart, which is making it hard for his heart to beat. He's up there beaten. I want you to imagine this. He's up there beaten, and he's beaten really bad because he was beaten with a leather gouge with a 12-inch spike on it. And every time they hit Jesus with the leather gouge, what it did was it would dig into his skin, and then when they would pull it out, it would pull out his flesh until Jesus was a walking flesh. They did beat him 39 times. 39 times until Jesus was a walking flesh. I want you to get this. It is 110 degrees out there on the cross. So I can imagine that his wounds are beginning to be infected. And it is oozing with pus. And he's up there on the cross. And he's going through pain because of everything that Jesus went through. His body faculties begin to shut down, which means then that he began to defecate on himself and urinate on himself. But he still says, I thirst. It has to then be concluded then that Jesus is thirsty because after being beat like that and all of his body fluids being lost like he did, he had to be thirsty. And on top of this, he carries his own cross up the hill of Golgotha. And when he said that he thirsts, they had the nerve to give him vinegar. Now, I don't know about anybody in here, but when I heard about this, I always heard the negative viewpoint about vinegar, because vinegar is bitter. It's an undesirable taste. It's not something that you give someone that is thirsty. But as I begin to study, I begin to learn then that the water in Jerusalem contained a lot of bacteria. So now in order to cut the bacteria, they had to add vinegar. So what we thought was the worst thing for Jesus, it turned out to be the best thing for Jesus. You see, this is why you got to learn how to shout about God cutting some people out of your life. Because some people were no good for you. They were like bacteria. And the reason that God had to cut them out, because the place that God wanted to take you, he had to remove everybody out of your life that can contaminate your blessing. I just said something there. Is somebody here right now that God has moved some people out of your life, and you don't understand why God has moved them out. But I came to tell you that the reason that God moved them out is because the place God wanted to take you, he couldn't take some of them no good people. So what God had to do is God had to take you through isolation before he could elevate you. My God, let me prove it to you. Jesus is on the cross. He is on the cross, and he's isolated from everybody. He has 12 disciples, but there's only one disciple in John that is up there at the foot of the cross. He is isolated, but in 3 days, he is elevated above all measures. What I'm simply saying is that what God is doing right now is he is taking you through isolation. But if you can hold on for a minute, after God process of isolation, he's getting ready to elevate. I thirst. I thirst. The timing now of this statement is interesting because this is not the first time they offered Jesus something to drink. Because what they offered him the first time was something called gall. And what gall was like, it was almost like a painkiller. But Jesus says, I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take any painkillers to try to take a shortcut to my purpose. I have to stay there for a minute. If I had the time, I would preach it. But he says, I'm not going to take this. But I was open up, my mind opened up when I read this. In verse 28 it says, after this Jesus, knowing that all things were accomplished, that the scriptures might be fulfilled, he says, I thirst. It released me to understand that God is not going to be through working some things out for you until everything that he spoke over your life he fulfilled. My God, this is why I shout like I do. You see, people think I'm crazy and they think that I lost my mind because I shout like I do. But I'm not crazy. I just thought about the goodness of God. That's why the songwriter said, whenever I can think of the goodness of Jesus and all he's done for me, that's when my soul cries out. You see, I don't need no choir to stand up here and get me excited about Jesus. I don't need no preacher to stand up here and to get me excited about my God. But all I need is a memory. My God, some of you in here right now, if you just got a flashback